Hydra is large enough to be seen with the unaided eye, but has no special transport system. The interior of Hydra is primarily a digestive cavity, and the body wall is only 2 cell layers thick. Nearly every cell is adjacent to outside pond water or water in the digestive cavity, and thus in position to exchange gases and eliminate metabolic wastes by simple diffusion. Cells lining the digestive cavity complete digestion of the food, and the digested food molecules diffuse into the inner and outer layers of cells. Indiscriminate contractions and other movements of the body help to move the content throughout the digestive cavity. A planarian, like Hydra, has no special transport system. The body is flattened so every cell is close to the outside in a position to absorb oxygen and eliminate carbon dioxide. As in Hydra, a digestive sac occupies much of the interior of a planarian. Digestion and the movement of digested food molecules is basically the same as in Hydra. Planarians seem to be near the maximum size and complexity an animal can obtain without an internal circulatory system. They move quite sluggishly. Larger animals have internal circulatory systems for transporting food, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. These systems consist of blood vessels and a pump or heart for moving the blood. The pumping mechanism has basically the same function in all animals, but its structure varies. In the earthworm, the major pumps are the aortic arches, which contract and move the blood. In mollusks, the heart is short and lies within a thin pericardial sac. The heart consists of a thick-walled ventricle and 1 or 2 atria. In insects, the heart is slender and tubular and lies against the dorsal wall of the abdomen. The axolotl, an amphibian, has a 3-chambered heart. In reptiles, such as this turtle, the heart has 2 atria and 2 ventricles. However, the ventricles are imperfectly separated in most reptiles. In birds and mammals, the heart has 4 separate chambers. The 2 atria, and the 2 ventricles. Valves permit the blood to flow through the heart in one direction only. The action of the valves helps to maintain a high pressure in the blood vessels. These pumps, or hearts, move the blood through two major types of circulatory systems: closed and open. In open circulatory systems, the blood is pumped through open-ended vessels into the body spaces. In closed circulatory systems, the blood is a circulating fluid that is always in tubes, the blood vessels. The segmented worms are the least complex animals possessing a circulatory system. The blood of the earthworm circulates through blood vessels. The dorsal blood vessel is contractile and helps force blood forward to the aortic arches. The 5 aortic arches on each side pulsate, pumping the blood to the lower side. The lower ends of the arches join the ventral vessel, which carries the blood toward the anterior and posterior parts of the worm. Branching vessels go to all parts of the body, eventually branching into numerous microscopic capillaries. The capillaries join together, forming larger vessels. These carry blood to the dorsal vessel, which leads to the aortic arches. The capillaries are the only vessels with walls thin enough for easy exchange of molecules between the blood and the cells. The red blood corpuscles move single file through the thin capillaries. Hemoglobin in the red blood corpuscles increases their gas-carrying capacity. Insects have an open circulatory system. The blood flows through a single vessel. The blood flows out of the vessel into large spaces among the body tissues, where exchanges occur between the blood and the cells. The blood moves back through the cavities of the body, eventually returns to the heart, and is pumped out again. The blood in insects does not function in gas transport. All vertebrates have closed circulatory systems. In the perch, the heart lies just behind the gills. In each circuit, the blood passes through the heart only once. All of the blood passing through the heart is deoxygenated. Deoxygenated blood returns from the body through the veins and enters the sinus venosus, which empties into the atrium. The ventricle, a muscular chamber, receives blood from the atrium and pumps it through the bulbus arteriosus into the ventral aorta, which branches and carries blood to the gills. The aerated blood leaves the gills and flows through the dorsal aorta to all parts of the body. In amphibians, the heart is encased in a pericardium. The frog's heart has 3 chambers. The blood is forced from the left atrium and the right atrium into the single ventricle. The truncus arteriosus arises from the ventricle. Oxygenated blood from the lungs flows through 2 pulmonary veins and enters the left atrium. Deoxygenated blood from all parts of the body, except the lungs, flows through the 3 tributaries of the vena cava, which unite in the thin-walled sac, the sinus venosus. The sinus venosus connects with the right atrium. The basic features of the closed circulatory system in mammals are similar to those of other vertebrates. The heart serves as a pump. Blood vessels carry blood toward and away from the heart. The right ventricle pumps the blood through the pulmonary trunk, and pulmonary arteries to the lungs. Here, carbon dioxide is exchanged for oxygen. Then the oxygenated blood flows through the pulmonary veins and enters the left atrium. The left ventricle pumps the oxygenated blood through the large systemic trunk from which branches are distributed. These are some of the branches which supply the upper part of the body. The descending aorta passes through the diaphragm and branches in the lower part of the body. For example, these arteries supply blood to the stomach, spleen, and liver. The renal arteries supply blood to the kidneys. Blood returns to the heart through the systemic veins. The large posterior vena cava receives blood from all parts of the lower body regions. For example, the renal veins empty blood from both kidneys into the posterior vena cava. The hepatic portal vein carries blood from the digestive tract to the liver. All blood entering the liver leaves by way of the hepatic veins to the posterior vena cava, which penetrates the diaphragm and enters the right atrium. Blood from many veins in the upper body regions empties into the anterior vena cava, which also enters the right atrium. The blood enters the right ventricle, completing the circuit. Thus, interchanges of food, oxygen, and wastes are affected by diffusion and streaming movements of cytoplasm in single-celled organisms. While in the larger animals, internal transport systems have evolved to establish communication between the external environment and the internal cells.